Joya, and guys, let me start off by saying I'm not naive enough or egotistical enough that all of you really cared about the NFL negotiations. And those of you that are fans, really all you cared about was that the game was going to be played. This process didn't start just this summer. It was a 2.5-year process that started back in 2008 when the owners opted out of the deal. And all you really heard about was the 8 weeks leading up to the regular season. So I'm going to try to condense 2.5 years into less than 8 minutes. And I don't know if that's going to be possible. But obviously, the biggest deal was how do you broker a deal? And first of all, it's the NFL players against the NFL owners. And let me tell you, when you're dealing with a bunch of multi-billion-dollar owners, it's a tough task to pull a dime out of their pocket, kind of like squeezing the juice out of a turnip. What it turned out to be, who the principals were was myself as the president, Mike Vrabel was my executive vice president, Dominic Foxworth, Jeff Saturday, Tony Richardson, Sean Morey, Brian Waters, Scott Fujita, Brian Dawkins, and Charlie Batch. That's the executive committee of the NFL Players Association, and those are my vice presidents. And those are the principals that were in the room and negotiating a deal. This is important because this is the first time in the history of the NFL that the players actually sat at the bargaining table to get a deal done. And obviously we had DeMaurice Smith. You guys have seen him plenty of times. He was the guy that I hired 3 years ago to take over as our executive director when Gene Upshaw passed away unexpectedly. On the owner side, you have the 32 owners, and they have an executive committee of themselves. And the principals in that negotiation was Clark Hunt for Kansas City Chiefs, Robert Kraft, who was instrumental in this deal for the Patriots, Jerry Jones, got a little story about him, Jerry Richardson, Carolina Panthers, Art Rooney from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then Jonathan Mara from the New York Giants. And the thing about these guys are, out of all these guys, 3 of these guys are second-generation owners where their dad owned the original NFL team, and some of them weren't. The one thing about Jerry Jones, and he did tell us, he goes, I bought this team when 2/3 of it was in the red. He goes, I'm going to make money, and I know how to do it. And he's a guy that was a no-holds-barred kind of guy, but one that at the end of the day, had he not been there, the deal wouldn't have got done. Because for him, it's not about an emotional tie to a team that his family owned. It was about getting the business done. And if you guys have ever been to or seen the monstrosity in Dallas that he built for $1.6 billion, you'll know that that man knows how to make some money. So here's the problem is, how do you take a business that in 2010 made $9.6 billion, and how do you split that up to a business that's going to make $27 billion by the year 2025? You need a pretty big knife, and you got to have big egos to take what you want and get what you need. But at the end of the day, when you go into negotiations, you have to decide what's important, what are my needs versus my wants, and what am I willing to give up to get what I want. Over these next couple of slides, I'm not going to read everything because there's so much detail in them. But I did ask some guys who weren't football players, what do you want to know? And they said, what are the extremes on both sides? What were the asks? And I have to say, not just because I'm a player, but at the beginning of the deal, the players never asked for a dime. We liked the deal as it was. The owners wanted out of it. And so some of the things that they were asking for was a 20% pay cut in player salaries, which would have equaled well over $1 billion over the next year or two. They wanted us to take a share of 50% of all revenue and drop it down to 44%. They wanted 18 games. They wanted a rookie wage scale, which in an event would have carried over into a veteran wage scale, because we believe that rookies are only rookies for one time in their career. And then once you get to your second game or second season, you're no longer a rookie anymore. They wanted to restrict player movement because they opted out of the deal. There were some rules that changed in free agency. They wanted full forfeiture of their compensation or salary signing bonuses. You guys hear when a guy got arrested, he had to give back some of his signing bonus money. We felt like, well, you sign a paper, that's why it's called a signing bonus, so you shouldn't have to give any of that back. And finally, they wanted credits for their stadiums to build new stadiums. For us, it's a laundry list of things. If you guys want this, these are the things we wanted. Some of the bigger things we wanted was financial transparency. We wanted a percentage of all revenue. The owners wanted to take, the deal was $9.6 billion. They skimmed $1 billion off the top, and then you split the pie. And we said, well, if we're going to do a true deal, let's do a deal that encompasses all the money, and then we split that pie the way it needs to be split. We wanted guarantees in the amount of money that they would be willing to spend on player salaries, limit the contract lengths of rookies so that they can get to free agency faster. And there's just another list of stuff you guys can read fast. I can't cover it all in the short time that I have. But at the end of the day, what players wanted is more control over their careers. And this is what we ended up getting. We went to an all-revenue system where players will no longer get a portion of a skim part, but we will never go below 47%, and we will never go above 48%. So what that does gives us certainties in the amount of money that we're going to make. Now, you take $27 billion in 2025 and take 47% out of that. That's a whole lot of money for players in the NFL. We created with this legacy fund's important. So all you parents who are asking about what about the former players who built the game? Well, we created a legacy fund in the savings from the rookies that over the next 10 years is going to save nearly $1 billion, and all that money is going to be funneled back to the former players in terms of health care, retirement, pensions, and things like that. The legacy fund is something separate that's going to create programs for dementia, early onset of dementia and Alzheimer's, and things like that. I think I'm getting some of it as I forget. If you don't see a sticky tab or a yellow 3M tab on my desk, it's probably going to get forgotten or lost. So I've been hitting the head too many times. We restructured the rookie contracts, the length of the contracts from 5 years and 6 years to no more than 4. We guarantee that the owners have to spend 99% of the money over the next 5 years to the players. They can't pocket the money. What would happen is they wouldn't spend money under the cap, and whatever they didn't spend under the cap, they put in their own pockets. So we guarantee that they have to spend that money. We got increased minimums and salaries up to $55,000 in addition to what the salaries already were. And for the first time in the history of the NFL, players don't have guaranteed contracts. And when you get injured and you lose your money and you lose your contract, you don't get in that money with you. So for the first time in history, we have injury guarantees. If I had 2 years left on my contract, but I got hurt in year 1, a portion of that year's 2 and 3 contracts are guaranteed now. If I have a debilitating injury, I blow my knee out, neck injury, spinal cord injury, now the owners will have to pay up to $1 million up into the 3 years of that contract. What the owners got were cost certainty. They wanted to know, will I have a limit on what I have to spend? And the answer is yes. They won't have to increase costs. They know that the players' costs are always going to be at a certain level. What they really wanted was new stadium credits. In order to bring a new stadium online, it costs about 5.5% of the total revenue. In the next 10 years, the owners are anticipating 3 brand new stadiums, 2 of which will probably be in California, and 1 will be somewhere right now. I think they want to build a new one in Minnesota. It just depends on if they get public funding for that. They wanted stronger rules regarding contract lengths and holdouts. Everybody knows the story of Chris Johnson. He held out to the tune of $30,000 a day for this offseason. I think all told it was nearly $950,000 that he could possibly have lost if the owners did it. And what he probably did is negotiate that into his contract. But now it prevents players from holding out just so they can get new contracts. There's 10 years of labor peace. No opt-out clauses. If you're a fan of the NFL, you know that football will be played for the next 10 years without any issues coming up. There's a 3% give back for the players in all revenues. We were at 50%. We gave back 3% in order to get deal done and get labor peace, as long as our salaries didn't dip below what they were in 2009, and we accomplished that. And incentives to generate new revenue streams. All your PDAs, your smartphones and stuff, that's money making. Anytime you see a banner on the internet, that's something that makes money. Fantasy football guys, you're making money for the players in the NFL. Every time you buy a jersey, I get 6% of every jersey you buy. Every hat that's sold, every dime that you spend in the stadium, players get a percentage of that. But every time an owner come up with a new revenue stream, something that's new, totally out there, whether it be 3D or something like that, they got incentives to spend money to make money now. At the end of the deal, you have to deal what's best for you. What can I live with? What can I walk away from? And the players believe that we got a deal that's fair for everybody involved. And unfortunately for me, my time is over. But when you do a deal like this that you know you're never going to have a piece of, you got to think long term and what the legacy of the people that you leave behind, and what are you leaving for the guys that come before you, after you. You never know. I mean, in 145 years, there's only 6 professional athletes that came out of the school. But one of you guys might be that guy. And I know that when I leave this game, when I give up my term in March, that you, 10 years from now, may have benefited from this deal. So I walk away from the deal knowing that we compromised on some things, we stood our ground on others. And for those of you who want to know, what was a dead stop point for us, and what would have crushed the whole deal? If they would have insisted on 18 games, we would have walked away from the table, and the NFL wouldn't be playing football right now. So that was the one thing that would kill the whole deal. But we felt like we got a great compromise. We felt like the deal was done. And the most important thing, the only people that really matter are the fans. So the fans are happy. NFL's being played. The numbers are so much higher now than they've ever been. And the best guy that's ever played in the game is right in the middle right there. So thanks for your attention, and I appreciate it.